I feel like one of my hugest blessings came from a curse. And so one of my hugest blessings is my imagination. The curse it came from was being a bullied kid who used that imagination as a life raft, essentially. But growing up, I would walk in this park by our house, and it was this like hundreds of acres, and there was a creek running through it, and this kid disappeared in that park for hours and hours and hours a day, in my imagination, in my thought, in my aloneness, and daydream. And I think because I wasn't exposed to many other kids, I was a loner. I really wasn't affected by other people's energy as much as some kids were. So as I grew up, that continued, and still now, I when I am by myself, or when I'm walking, or when I'm driving, I just have these amazing visions, or imaginations, that when I think of them, like, wouldn't it be cool to, do X, Y, and Z? Wouldn't it be cool to climb a mountain? Wouldn't it be cool to make a song? Wouldn't it be cool to make a documentary? Wouldn't it be cool to share how I learned to paint? Wouldn't it be cool to all of these different things? And I think the benefit of having that imagination, and not having it filtered through the logic of other people's brains, is I don't have the common sense to go, oh, that probably, like, that couldn't happen. That literally makes no sense whatsoever. So for me, I've developed this almost like groove in my life, where when an idea lights me up, it catches fire. And I don't filter myself. I almost can't filter myself at this point. So I have this unbridled enthusiasm or excitement for so many random things. And one of those things is, I've always wanted to make a song. I always wanted to create a song. I have this deep love of music, and this deep observing of sounds in nature, or samples. I'm like, oh, that drum beat would be great here, or this sound effect would be great there. And that's just kind of the way I hear the world. And when I'm on these walks, there's a certain kind of tree that the leaves make a sound almost like a tambourine, or like a maraca. And this is the way I see the world. So for the longest time, I thought, oh, it would be so great to write and record a song. Problem being, I do not sing at all, and I don't really play any instruments. I have a deep observation of music, but this kind of puts a massive barrier in my way, because, well, how do you explain music to somebody who knows music and can facilitate the vision? However, you don't play anything, so you can't actually go, oh, the chords sound like this. So that's kind of been percolating at the back of my mind for so long. And this Christmas, I thought, well, maybe I'll just see about recording a song. So I have a boy who's 13 years old, and he does musical theater. And so he sings, and it just kind of crossed my mind again on one of my drives, where it's like, oh, well, I want to write a song. I've never written a song. I can't sing, but what if we have him sing? And then it's like, oh, well, what if we have him sing it and then make it for his mom? So I approach him with this grandiose idea, and I'm used to thinking 27 steps ahead. And I'm like, oh, we're going to make the song. It's going to be amazing. How are we going to do it? I have no idea. We'll figure it out step by step. So I bring the idea to him, and I think that he's going to be as jazzed as I am out of the gate. And I'm like, so, like, here's the idea. What about if we make a song for your mom for Christmas, and you sing it? Like, you and I, it'll be a project. And he's like, well, what would be involved in that? I'm like, that's one of those logic things that I tend to like to avoid. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. So let's just think about it. Let's parse it out and figure it out. And the thing I love about this process is it literally works for everything. You don't need to know all of the steps. You just need to know, is this a yes? Am I excited? And what is the next first thing? And so I said, I have no idea how it's going to all play out. So I can't give you the entire plan, the blueprint laid it out in front of you, and it's not going to go like this, like this. We're going to be in the unknown for the bulk of it. However, it's going to be fun and it's going to be interesting. And at the end of the day, we will have made a song. So we sit down and we have like all of these papers spread out all over the table because we kind of decided, well, he's going to be the person who sings it. I'm going to write the lyrics, and then we'll figure out the music piece in between, which I realize sounds ridiculous since that's the biggest part. So we have all these papers, and I'm asking him questions like, what do you love about your mom? What is the best advice she's ever given you? What do you find beautiful about her? What advice would you give to her? What are stories and memories and lessons that you've learned from her? And we started jotting them down on these disconnected pieces of paper because, and I would put a circle around each idea. And he asked me, why are you doing that? And I said, because I don't want to have them marinate together on the page. Because I don't know what we're going to be writing here. They're just random ideas, and I want to keep them separate. So at the end of the day, when we look at everything we have, we can say, okay, let's just kind of cherry pick what fits. So he did such a beautiful job, and it was so heartfelt and so deep. And for a 13-year-old boy to be coming up with some of these concepts and ideas was just, it was humbling and it was beautiful. So I take all of these ideas and I'm thinking, okay, well, I do love me some words, so I'm just gonna write some lyrics. But I've never written lyrics to a beat, to a song. So given that I didn't know where to start, it was like, do you write the lyrics and then put a beat to it, or do you find a beat and then match the lyrics to it? So I'm trying to build these lyrics almost like the percussion of a drum, like da 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 da, and I was playing a song that was kind of the vibe that we decided on. So the other thing I said to him was, what do you want the song to feel like? So when we finally find somebody who knows music and plays music, we're going to need to be able to communicate with them. Like, is it going to be a slow, sappy song? Is it going to be a rap? What's it going to be? And he decided he wanted it to be upbeat, sentimental. So I said, okay, what would be an example of a piece of music that you deem upbeat, sentimental? So we found that piece of music and I kept listening to it. So as I'm writing the lyrics, I'm kind of listening to the cadence of the beat and to the melody, and I don't really know what we're going to end up with, but I was just struggling, and I couldn't seem to match the words to the beat. And then I thought, well, maybe it's the song. Like, I'll find another song. So I substituted the song, and still struggling. And then 2 hours later, I think to myself, well, maybe this isn't for me. Like, maybe I'm not the person that should be writing a song. I thought this was going to be easier, and I thought it was going to be fun. And I've been known to write songs and poetry and, all kinds of things. But this was a struggle. And then finally I said, well, I was the one that brought this to the boy, and he's participating fully in it. Why don't I just forget about the music and just write a poem? And so I just let it emerge from the page. I didn't start with an idea about, I'm writing a song about this. I just started writing just rhymes, just ideas, and they weren't flowing together at the start. But when I looked at a bunch of rhymes that were kind of isolated from one another, when I kind of put them side by each, they didn't necessarily flow together out of the gate, but there was a theme, and I'm like, oh, and it was almost like at that point when I just let my foot off the throttle and let go of control, that the song revealed itself. And what it ended up being is the first 3/4 of the song is advice that his mom has given him. And it was beautiful and profound. But one of the things that he'd written on the page was that he needs to take his own advice. And that was, I guess, one of the things that his mom has said to him. But what I know about his mom is sometimes her advice is great, and maybe she could also take her advice. The last bit of the song, the first bit was, the brilliant advice she's given him. And then the last quarter of the song was we flipped the script and we gave her her own advice back. So I write the lyrics out and I looked at them. I'm like, dang, like I'm proud of those. That sounds pretty good. So I showed it to him and he's like, wow, that's exactly what we talked about. So he's like, now what do we do? And I'm like, I don't know, but here's what I do know. We need a melody for vocals and we need some sort of melody and beat. So we're going to need to now find somebody who can help us out with that. So I just started looking through my life's roster, like who are people who know this? And if they don't know, maybe they can put me onto somebody else that they know that knows. So it started with his music teacher and he had some good ideas, but we needed a little more leadership. And then, so that wasn't working. And then I went on to my friend Mark Schulman, who drummed for Pink for an eon. And he put me on to his friend who was a producer, who I spoke to, and he was lovely. And he goes, oh my gosh, this is brilliant. But I'm moving across country, so I can't help you. And I'm like, okay, who else? So then I find my friend Eva, and she plays bass for Pink also. And she started to work with us a bit, and she sent us over a sample based on the lyrics and based on here's the vibe of the song and here's what we're thinking. But it turns out we actually needed a little bit more leadership than that even, because at the end of the day, I hopped on a call with her and I said, hey, listen, so we want it to feel this way. We're not really married to what it is, and nor can we be because we don't play anything. But almost what we need for this first song out of the gate is we need a melody, and we need a melody for the vocals, and then Ryan's going to sing the melody that we're given. So it's almost like somebody's going to have to parts it together. And so she says, oh, okay, I know who you need. You need a musical director / producer. And I'm thinking, great, because she knew what I needed even when I didn't, but I was able to articulate the parts that I did know. So she says, okay, let me talk to my friend Ollie. He's exactly what you need. This is his wheelhouse for sure. So she gets back to me maybe 20 minutes later and says, I talked to Ollie. He says he's willing to help you out. And then casually in conversation says, yeah, he's really great at this. He's the musical director for Cher and Tina Turner and Pink, and he's worked with Gwen Stefani and Joe Cocker, and he's now working for Disney. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And he's going to take time to help us, people who have never written a song, try and piece this thing together. And so sure enough, I hop on a call with Ollie, and he's lovely. And I give him all of the bits, all of the information, all of the insight that we have. And the only other thing that he asked for was, can you send me a recording of him singing so I can hear his range? So the three legs of the race ended up being this. We sat down and I wrote the lyrics based on, all of the thoughts and ideas. Then we took it to Ollie, who was the musical director, who ended up putting the music behind it and ended up singing it. And he would send us a sample of the first minute or the first minute or two, and says, is this what you're looking for? Is this what you're thinking? Is this the feel and the vibe that you were going for? And so we end up with this song with Ollie singing it. So at the end of the day, he sent us the song with him singing it, so Ryan could mimic it and learn it. And then he sent us a karaoke track so he could sing it on his own. And then the final step was we went to a full-fledged recording studio and had a sound producer record Ryan singing the vocals. And then we gave all of that back to Ollie, and he polished it up. And at the end of the day, we were able to say, like, we were behind spearheading the creation of this song. And whether or not somebody wants to write a song or they have a dream to do something that seems equally as absurd, it was just so rewarding. But also there's the moments when you're in your truth and you're like, this was always a yes for me. So when I recount what I went through to make this song possible, and all the steps and missteps, and this didn't work out and that didn't work out, at the end of the day, I barely remember any of it, and we flew through all of it, because the genuine truth was there was such passion and enthusiasm and curiosity. And I was so proud not only of what we created together, but also I was able to show, model, and teach a 13-year-old boy what it looks like to have a grand idea and to not have it all figured out and to live in the unknown and to just figure out the next right thing. Because if you start at the foot of the mountain and you're looking up at the summit, all of us would look at what we have to encounter and just go like, we'll just sit down on our feet. I have no idea. It's too much. It's a lot. It's a long trek. However, if you just say to yourself, okay, right now I'm just going to get to that first tree. Now I'm going to get to the next landing. It's easy to reach the summit if you just parse it out and do it a bit by bit by bit. And you don't need to have all of the knowledge or expertise or skills or training. You just need to have the bravery to ask. You need to know who does have the skills that I lack and fill the void. And you need to approach those people with absolute appreciation and vulnerability, because the truth is, Ollie helped us out not because, he needed to do this little side gig. At the end of the day, it was the story about two people wanting to build something, not knowing how to do it or where to start, and just following their gut and following their passion. And it was partly that reason that he agreed to jump on. And it was funny because at the end of the day, we were grotesquely grateful for his generosity and his patience and his understanding. And one of the biggest compliments was, he said it was actually really, fun. It was outside the norm, and this isn't something I usually work on. So for him, it was, I guess, refreshing. But also, here's something I never would have expected. He said, these lyrics are actually really good. I've shown them to a few people. And I thought, wow, here is a man who's worked with everybody. And I do love me some words and some lyrics and some poems. So I said to him in that moment, would you entertain doing another something? And he said, yeah, sure. And if you trace the route back, all of that started with a whole lot of unknown, a whole lot of enthusiasm, and an absolutely absurd idea that you said yes to.